Before recorded history, before Christianity reached these mountains, before any empire drew a border across this land, the people of the Balkans already knew what lived in the dark. They had names for it. They had rules for surviving it. These are not fairy tales. These are the 10 darkest legends from the Balkans, and some of them have never fully gone away. In the 10th place, the Balkan vampire emerges not from rumor, but from the cold record of imperial bureaucracy. In 1725, the death of Peter Blagojevich in Kiseljevo triggered a panic that reached Vienna. 9 villagers died within days, and their bodies were exhumed by order of the Austrian military. The surgeon's report described Blagojevich's corpse as disturbingly fresh, with red organs and blood at the mouth. A stake was driven through his heart, the body was burned, and these acts were documented in official parish registers and military correspondence. 7 years later, in Sargon, Arnold Pell's grave was opened under similar suspicions. The findings, clean teeth and unrotted flesh, were sent to scientific societies and published in the Wienerisches Diarium and then reprinted in the London Gazette. These cases, preserved in the archives, set the template for the vampire, an undead terror rooted in autopsy notes, not fantasy. The legend spread across Europe, blurring the line between clinical fact and folklore and casting a shadow that endures to this day. Number 9. Devil's Town, Javolja on Mount Radon, rises from the slopes with 200 stone towers, each a natural pillar shaped by the slow violence of rain and wind. The tallest reach 7 meters, sculpted by erosion at just fractions of a millimeter each year, yet their presence feels sudden and unnatural. Local legend claims these spires are a wedding party, cursed and frozen by a demonic force after a father's fury. The first printed version of this story appeared in 1939, but the warning is older, etched on the protected area's entrance board. Those who mock the stones will wander the hills for eternity. At dusk, visitors sometimes join a lantern procession, circling the tallest tower in uneasy silence. Devil's Town stands as a place where the land itself is the villain, a reminder that in the Balkans, even the earth can be cursed. Subscribe to Balkan Lore Chronicles and share which legend you believe is real. 8th place belongs to Baba Roga, the child-snatching crone whose shadow still falls across Balkan bedtime. Her name is whispered in the dark as a warning. Baba Roga will take you if children wander after nightfall or disturb the peace of a grave. Ethnographic recordings from Krnjak and Vukovic capture parents invoking her sack, said to carry off the disobedient, and linking her wrath to those who disrespect burial stones. Unlike distant monsters, Baba Roga operates inside the home, policing behavior with a threat of disappearance. The legend's reach stretches from Serbia to Bosnia, shaping generations through fear and ritual silence. Number 7. The Biyuk lurks in the borderlands of sleep, a shapeless presence feared for its hunger and its silence. In the villages around Vranje, elders once spoke of the Bauk slipping through cracks, stealing the breath of infants, and settling over a house like a suffocating blanket. Unlike monsters with faces, the Bayuke is formless. Its danger is the darkness itself. Survival depended on ritual. When night fell, families gathered in a single room, torches lit, and iron tools clanged together to drive the Bauk away. A field recording from 1973 captures the clamor of these midnight patrols, the hiss of flames, the pounding of pots, voices chanting the old deterrent spells. Fire, noise, and the circle of light became a code, a practical defense against the unknown, passed from parent to child. The legend of the Bauk is less a ghost story than a manual for enduring the terrors of the night, a reminder that fear can be outwitted if not banished. Number 6. The white phantom of Kalamegdan glides along the ancient ramparts as night falls over Belgrade. Her presence, a woman in a pale dress glimpsed near the fortress walls, has haunted city memory for generations. Kalemegdan's stones have witnessed centuries of siege and sacrifice, and now host a quieter procession, the steady stream of evening visitors. Tourism board records show that 38% of the fortress's 1.4 million annual guests arrive after 6 p.m., drawn by the city's night skyline and the uneasy promise of a spectral encounter. Guides like Anna Markovich recount ongoing reports from locals and tourists alike, fleeting figures on the highest tower, a chill at the edge of the path. The legend persists, not in rural isolation, but at the heart of the capital, proof that even in the glare of city lights, old fears adapt and endure. Subscribe to Balkan Lore Chronicles and share which legend you believe is real. Number 5. The Witches of the Balkan Mountains marks a chapter where legend collides with the machinery of justice. In the 18th century, accusations of vejustice, women said to fly at night and gather on mountain ridges, filled court registers from Sabak to Temesvar. Trial transcripts detail confessions extracted under threat, verdicts of hanging or beheading, and burials denied the rights of the church. The landscape itself bears the scars. Peaks named Viestica Ridge and valleys called Viestica Dolina appear on cadastral maps as early as 1845, annotated as sites of witch gatherings. The violence did not vanish with the passing centuries. Today, the annual Viestis Night Festival in Prijapolia draws thousands, transforming old fear into spectacle, but the place names remain as silent witnesses to a history of scapegoating and execution. In the Balkans, the line between myth and memory is carved into the earth. Number 4. Kuma steps from the margins of parish death logs into the center of epidemic terror. In the shadow of the 17th century plague waves, her name became synonymous with death, a black-clad crone seen on the road, her arrival marking the spike in weekly burials noted in Orthodox and Habsburg records. Villages shuttered their gates at dusk, invoking Kuma to enforce quarantine and silence, while the tolling of bell carts signaled each new victim. Stories warned that to neglect the burial rites of the plague dead was to invite her wrath, ensuring contagion would return. Ethnographers record that communities who followed the old taboos, washing, isolation, and swift burial, often survived outbreaks with fewer losses. In the Balkans, Kuma is more than a spirit. She is the memory of disease made flesh, a proto-public health warning encoded in legend. Number 3. The Ezideja coils through the oldest strata of Balkan fear. It is a dragon-like serpent whose hunger explains the violence of water. When rivers broke their banks and herds vanished beneath the flood, villagers named the calamity, saying Azdaja had risen. The motif survives not only in story, but in the land itself. Springs and headwaters across Serbia and Bosnia bear names like Azdaja Spring or Dragon's Mouth, marking sites where rituals once sought to appease the beast. Archaeologists excavating riverbank shrines have uncovered stone altars and carved serpentine idols, relics of a pre-Christian cult that treated Azdaja as both destroyer and guardian. Ethnographic records describe water rituals, offerings of bread, coins, or even small livestock meant to ward off a sudden deluge. In these legends, the dragon is not a distant fantasy, but a force woven into the cycle of flood and drought, a warning that nature's wrath is never far from the surface. Number 2, the Drekovac waits among the graves, a voice that splits the night and freezes the marrow. Its name means the screamer, and it echoes through cemeteries from Serbia to Bosnia, warning the living to keep away from sacred ground after dark. Ethnographic field tapes held by the Institute for Balkan Studies capture the raw terror. In Rijeka in 2000, A recording labeled Iska Kuchi Krik preserves the rising inhuman wail that locals insist belongs to the Drekovac. The legend tells of children buried unbaptized, returning as restless cries, never seen, only heard, their suffering made audible in the wind that sweeps the headstones. Modern reports persist, with villagers in rural districts still refusing to cross graveyards after sunset, convinced that the Drekovac punishes those who disturb the peace of the dead. In the Balkans, fear is not just a story, but a force that guards the border between the living and the lost. And finally, in first place, the shadow of Jirina the Damned falls across the walls of Smederevo Fortress, a legend forged not in rumor, but in the hard stone and bitter memory of history. Between 1427 and 1430, despot Juraj Brankovic commanded the construction of a new capital on the Danube, raising 25 towers and 5 gates in less than 3 years. The municipal archives record the relentless pace. Thousands of peasants and craftsmen conscripted under Corvey, driven to exhaustion by the demands of the state. Chroniclers of the time speak of deaths from starvation and fever, the toll uncounted but echoed in later centuries by travelers who called the fortress a monument to suffering. The name Prokleta Jirina, Jirina the Damned, first appears in a mid-16th century manuscript, then in 1624 in a monastic chronicle, and finally on a bronze plaque at the fortress itself. The story blames her for the cruelty of forced labor, her ambition cast as a curse that still clings to the ramparts. Unlike the spectral terrors of the night, Jirina was real, her legacy written in stone, her infamy preserved in both archive and folksong. Here, the line between legend and fact dissolves, leaving only the certainty that human cruelty can outlast any ghost. Subscribe to Balkan Lore Chronicles and share which legend you believe is real. Across all 10 legends, one pattern endures. The line between myth and history in the Balkans is never truly clear. These are not fairy tales. They are warnings etched into stone, memory, and blood. Some monsters were imagined, others, like Jirina, walked these lands.